course. Oops. Hi, welcome. Oh my goodness, like you fix one thing and another thing breaks. It's what happens. Hello, welcome. Today is a new day, an exciting day, an opportunity to begin fresh and new. So today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of starting an online business in 2022. Now, it's going to be interesting because there's lots to unpack about this. So sit back and if you have any questions, comments, please leave them below. And I'd love to answer any questions that you may have about ideas, things that you think about. I've talked about online businesses in the past. It's not all perfect, okay? Just because they're different, you have different problems, okay? That the old phrase, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Well, my philosophy is water your own grass, okay? That's just reality. That's truth. That's some truth for you, right? Like that's something that not a lot of people will talk about, as entrepreneurs, people get shiny object syndrome where it's, the thing of the day and then they're on to the next. And I can tell you that consistency and showing up in one thing typically yields better results than showing up inconsistently on lots of different things, right? So if you're a Twitter fanatic, go all in on Twitter. Use that. If you love Facebook, if that's where your people are, right? That's where your audience is. And we're going to get into these. So don't feel like I'm just talking about like real high level right this minute. Because you're one of the phrases that gets thrown around in the entrepreneur world quite frequently is your network is your net worth. Okay? The people that you associate with, the people that know you, that like you and trust you are the people that are going to send you the business first and are going to trust you enough to send you business, as opposed to somebody that you've never heard of that you have no way of knowing that it's truthful. Like there's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of people trying to just screw you for money. And so part of doing this, is getting your name out there to the point that people can know you, like you, and trust you to do business with you. So if you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help you create the business of your dreams. So welcome. I go live Monday through Friday, most days at 11. This is my time slot. This is where I like to be. It gives me an opportunity to let people settle in and enjoy and sit back and relax and bring a drink if you got it. I don't drink coffee, so I can't say coffee. But I have nice water. I love my water here. Helps my throat when I'm talking for hours. So let's get started on this, right? Let's dive into these bad boys. First, like online businesses in 2022 are so different than they were in 2020, 2019. People are spending an absurd amount of time. I don't think that's an official thing, but you get what I mean. An absurd amount of time online, right? Things that the people weren't spending online like just 2 years ago, right? Before the pandemic hit, people were spending a lot of time online, right? Quite a bit. But now it's like there's 24 hours a day and they're spending not quite that, but you know what I mean. And because everything had to move to remote and non-in-person, people are spending a lot of time online. So go where your market is. This is one of the reasons why I do these live videos, is because my market, my audience are all online. And so answering questions and helping you with navigating this stuff is where my people are, right? You're my people. So the first pro is that you get to work from almost anywhere. And I do say almost because I don't want you to think that you can literally work from anywhere, because you still need internet. You need access, right? I mean, whether it's a Wi-Fi hotspot, whether it's a wired connection, whatever it is, if you're dealing with an online business, you have to have access. So you can work from almost anywhere. Like if you wanted to go, if there's internet access, you got it, right? So you can work from almost anywhere. You can be, it's actually a great way to leverage money. Okay, for instance, if you're accepting the US dollar and you're in Puerto Rico, or you're in a different country where the dollar goes a lot further than, say, California, where the dollar does not go very far, painfully speaking, I might add. But if you're in one of those types of situations where you truly want to be like a traveling person, well, it's a great way to leverage that. You know, you can live in different countries for a lot less than you can live in the United States. And so having an online business makes a ton of sense. You no longer have to show up physically because of the virtual presence that we can do now. Like it's a different time to be in. So that's number one pro. You can work from almost anywhere. Number two, probably the most common reason why people start an online business in 2022 is starting it is a lot less expensive than doing a brick and mortar. You no longer have to have a storefront to be taken seriously. Now, caveat that. Google My Business likes it when you have a brick and mortar. They have not, I don't know why. I'm not Google. Can't ask me. Don't know. Can't answer that. But if you are a local type business like I am, right? My address is in San Diego, California. I have an address on my website. I have to have that for Google My Business. If I didn't care about Google My Business, then virtual is great, right? So, but I don't have that expense. I don't have the benefit of a physical, but I also don't have the expense of a physical. So it's got its pro there, right? Like it's both. It's kind of like, okay, now I don't get these types of things. You also struggle with like online directories and stuff like that because we're still tied to addresses. So there are ways around that a little bit. If you can't game Google, like that's just, they don't play nice. They'll shut off or like eliminate your Google My Business profile if they figure out that you're virtual. But you can get like PO boxes for a lot of stuff. You can get virtual where you use the address of that property and someone's there all the time, and that's great. It's not a PO box. It's a different type of thing. Google My Business does not play well with that, though. If they will flag it and shut down your Google My Business. They really want people in brick and mortar. Again, I don't know why. They're Google. They do their own thing. I don't get to control that. Okay. So the next thing about being online in 2022, your business is it is exceptionally flexible, right? You can work when it's convenient as opposed to having to be at a job 9 to 5. That being said, I want to caveat that one. Just because you can do something flexible doesn't mean you should be flexible in the amount of time that you put in. So in other words, if you want to work from 8 until 8 in the morning, or whatever, and sleep all day, fine. But the one thing that you can't get away with is you can't get away with not putting in time, right? You won't see the level of success that you're looking for if you don't put in the time. So can you put it in when you want to? Yeah, you can. You can make it so that you get, you can do it at your optimal time. You can do it when your kids go to school, okay? And then when they get home, it's up. It's back to the kids. You can, and then do it when they go to bed. Whatever works for your schedule, that's the benefit of having an online business. It doesn't have to be this 9 to 5. Now, another somewhat caveat to that is you also have to be flexible with other businesses that are open during the 9 to 5, because there are some, in fact, quite a bit that are only open 9 to 5. So if you're a night owl and you do it at night, fine, great. But also know that your vendors may not be. So you're going to have to be like, okay, maybe I work at night and then I also work a little bit during the day to handle the things that that I need to do while my vendors are open. And, I mean, maybe your vendor's in China, India, fill in the blank, wherever it is. And so that affects what you're going to do and where you're going to do it at too. Okay. But it's definitely more flexible than working a 9 to 5, right? Like you don't have to be at your seat at 9 o'clock and, be work until 5 and then you're done, right? So, but also, and here's one thing that I want you to know, and this is speaking from years of experience with helping businesses. Don't get caught into the trap of working too much. I know as an entrepreneur, there's always something that can be done. There's always, you wear a million hats. It's challenging, but you need to take time for yourself. You need to enjoy your life still. There are a lot of gurus out there that'll say, oh, you can sleep when you're dead, or that you can, you put all this effort in and maybe you'll see the results of it and maybe you die, and you never get to see what you've benefited from, right? Because you're constantly working. Well, my philosophy is do the work that's required, but don't fall into the trap of working constantly. Because if you're miserable because you're working constantly, then you're not really living, right? Like, what are you working for if it's not to have a good life? If you're just working to be miserable. So you want to be careful about putting in too much time. Again, I'm not saying don't. I'm saying temper yourself. Go to yoga class. Go to Pilates. Go do the things that you like to do, whatever that is. If you like to surf, I'm in California. I've never surfed a day in my life. But if you like to surf, go surf. If you like to, whatever it is, take time and enjoy your life. Don't just live to work. Okay? That's my thing. So flexible, but don't abuse it. The next thing that's a pro, lots of different types of businesses. Products, services, coaching. There's so many options. There's so many opportunities for success out there. I listed just a few the other day in my video where I talked about different types of online businesses. And these are amazing opportunities here. So don't feel like that it's all been done before and you can't do it, or that because other people have already done it, you can't do it. I want you to think about, as I said in that video, and I'll say it again because it's worth repeating. If you ever doubt your ability to deliver a product or service, go to your grocery store. Stater Brothers, Vons, Ralph's, Walmart if they have a food court, and go down the bread aisle and count how many different types of bread there are. Yeah. And then further, I want you to count how many different types of white bread there are. And they all taste very close to the same thing, right? So don't think just because it's been done before that you can't do it. That being said, what can you do with your online business that is different or better than somebody else's online business? What can you bring that's unique to you? Is it a 90-day return policy? Don't know. Not saying that's what you have to pick. I'm just using it as for instance. I'll give you a great example. Back when Apple was first getting started, Steve Jobs, the standard warranty on most computers was 90 days. Steve Jobs said, nope, we're not doing that. We're giving people a year because we want them to be happy with it. We want them to have the protection of that year. So when you're paying for an Apple product and they pioneered that, right? You're paying a premium for an Apple product, but you're getting a year. Well, and they have it down to a science where how many units are going to be, they're going to have to replace for that year. So they know their failure rate, right? So they're still profitable, but they've built that into the price that used to not be. It used to be the 90 days. So finding these ways of giving you a different perspective, right? Like with the bread idea. Find a wrapper or a bread bag that is made of recyclable plastics. I don't know. I'm just giving you ideas here. Find something that is different that will resonate with your targeted audience, right? So maybe the person that wants an eco-friendly bag, right? That's where you find your niche. So maybe you sell the same product, but it's an eco-friendly bag. Or you include return shipping in something, right? That's included in your price so that if they need to return it to you, that they don't have to worry about spending the money to return it to you. Maybe that's included. So you're going to need to think about these types of things. But there's lots of different types of businesses. So don't feel like that just because it's been done before, you can't do it. But the caveat is, how are you going to make your white bread better? How are you going to make your white bread different than somebody else's, right? Because if you're trying to compete, you need some sort of competitive edge, better or different. And I know this should go without saying, but I'm just going to say it anywhere. So it should be better or different, not worse. Don't make a crappier product. Don't make something that is terrible, right? That you don't want to do. You definitely, that is in the category of Taylor's tips for not doing something. All right, so the next advantage is, guess what? We are in a worldwide economy. It is amazing where we're at now, where you can sell products and services to some degree internationally. There's so many options. There's so many opportunities that you can sell that you couldn't do just 5 to 10 years ago. And we can thank Amazon for that because they kind of pioneered a lot of this stuff. I'm not saying they were the first, but they've definitely blazed some trails in that respect. Whether you like them for their politics and their treatment of employees, I'm not going to delve into that. But the point is that you have to appreciate what they've done because you can do that too. Okay, whether it be e-commerce, drop shipping, fill in the blank, there's lots of opportunities there. The next and probably one of the most beneficial things of having an online business is data or data, depending on which argument you want to get into. I don't care. But anyway, point is, something that didn't exist years ago. It's easier to track your sales through the use of analytics now than it ever has been before. So you can make decisions, you can adjust your ideas to fit what people are looking for. There are a ton of opportunities out there to adjust what you're doing to improve, to constantly improving. Whether it be split testing an ad or whether it just be adding a different product or saying a product a different way that gets more clicks, or improving your ship time, right? If an order comes in and then it goes out the same day and you're including 2-day shipping or whatever it is, there's lots of opportunities to ask your audience what they want, what's important to them. Is free shipping, return, and send the most important to them? So you bake that into the price, right? So you just accept that that's going to be the price. So there's lots of opportunities to use analytics in your business that just didn't exist 20 years ago, heck, 10 years ago. Things that you used to have to keep track of with the spreadsheet, which, not dissing a spreadsheet, but it's not the most accurate because you're adding a human element to it. Okay. So that's your final pro, right? That's your final pro, is that you've got more accessible data. You can make better decisions based on that data that you wouldn't have had just a few years ago because of all the different resources that are out there. So. All right. So we're going to get into the pros now. First pro, because it's easier, there's also more competition for it. Sad but true, right? The bread aisle is getting bigger, right? Because more people are able to make the same white bread, which is all the more reason to make sure that you have a competitive advantage. You've made a better white bread, or you've made a different white bread, right? Now, I don't know a lot about bread. I'm just using, again, that's an analogy here, right? So there is higher competition. But if you have a unique selling proposition with eco-friendly bags, same-day shipping, or same-day delivery, if possible, right? 90-day return policy. You don't like it, return it immediately. You don't like that bread? We don't care, right? So maybe that $1.50 loaf of bread that is, at the grocery store, maybe somebody's willing to pay $4 for it because it's delivered to them instead of having to go to the store and pick it up. Maybe $5 because it's eco-friendly. I'm okay with paying more because I'm going to get an eco-friendly bag, right? Maybe $6 because I get free shipping back and forth. I don't know. These are all ideas. These are all things that you need to think about as you're building this business, as you're starting this online business. Because the more innovative you can get, right? Like you're not reinventing bread per se, or you didn't start bread. You're just improving on it. So you're innovating. You're not inventing. Big difference. So focus on those things. Another con to an online business is the time that it takes you to earn revenue can be anywhere between days, weeks, and months until you find that right thing. What do I mean? So you don't know what's going to work until it works, because in your mind, you have these ideas that, oh, well, this should work. Oh, this is a great product. Some of the biggest failures in history have been things that people invented that they thought were awesome, and it turned out nobody wanted them. Apple has a history of that. If you look at Steve Jobs' books, and I'm not endorsing Apple other than Steve Jobs had some great ideas, but the world wasn't ready for them. People weren't interested. They were still stuck in the old ways of doing things. And so you have to be careful that the product that you want, or that you want to build or sell or whatever, that there's already demand for it, right? There's already demand for white bread. There's already demand for wheat bread. Okay. So don't think that just because it's a great idea that it automatically translates into you being rich. Because the ideas are a dime a dozen. Executing on that, on the other hand, is. But that revenue, that time between when you start something to when you actually get money can be it can be long, right? Like you could invest a lot of time and energy into something and then you make one sale. It's possible. So you need to consider these things as you're building this business. It's funny because pros and cons are usually two sides of the same coin, right? So because it's online now, you're looking at, you need to have some technical expertise. I'm not saying you have to be a coding genius, because you can certainly hire somebody to do that. I'm not suggesting that at all. But you have to have some basic technical skills, understanding of what you're doing in order to do it. Because in the beginning, you're probably not going to have a lot of money, but you're going to have a lot of time, right? Relatively speaking, right? So you can invest that time into developing these things that you don't have the money to pay somebody to do. Eventually, the goal is to pay someone to do the work for you, to be able to say, we're doing this, and then they do that, right? Whether it be graphic design, marketing, sales, customer service, all of these things you're going to be doing in the first place. And then eventually you're going to hire people to handle those things. How long that takes depends on you. But you need some technical skills. The next thing you need, and this is a con, but it's somewhat of a pro. I like turning things around. The market is constantly evolving. Look at how many people have gone out of business because they failed to evolve. And I'm just going to use a few examples. Circuit City. If you're old enough to remember them, you know they didn't evolve. They were very much heavy debt, heavy related on brick and mortar. Okay, they didn't have a very good online presence. And then when they did get an online presence, everybody had kind of like, no. Fry's is a local electronics store. That store is amazing. You could spend hours upon hours in that store. Like, they are like crazy big, huge. They are like the electronics superstore. The problem is, if you ever went to their website, it was absolute junk. Like, it looked like a 10-year-old threw that sucker together, right? So I bring those up as an example, but as an online business, you need to be constantly watching the market, looking for improvements, looking to use those analytics that we just talked about a few minutes ago to improve your service. You cannot rest on your laurels. Things happen way too fast in industries and pricing. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, and you can't look at this and go, oh, this is a great idea. Okay. In the respect that you can't sit back and offer the same things repeatedly. That's what I meant by that. That don't work, right? And as an entrepreneur, and I tell this to my clients all the time, I want you to think about this. Your greatest strength is your ability to pivot. You don't have a huge bureaucracy that goes with Microsoft, Apple, fill in the blank. Like, lots of people have a say in what happens at Apple. Okay. As an entrepreneur in an online business, if something's not working, stop it. If something's working, double down. I know it sounds simple in theory, but you'd be surprised how many entrepreneurs, they get their hearts set on something, they don't pay attention to the data, and they just keep trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And we know that that's one of the definitions of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. 2 + 2 is always going to be 4. That's just truth. So when you're thinking about these things, make sure that you're spending the time and energy and money on things that work. And if it doesn't work, then stop doing it. Spend money somewhere else. Find a different way. Now, the key, here's one of the keys, and this is something I share, so please, is knowing when that time is. You need to give it time. You give it less than a week, you've just shot yourself in the foot. You don't know if it's going to work in a week. If you've been trying it for a couple of months and it's still not working, then you might have something. I'd say a minimum of 3 to 6 months, depending on what you're doing, before you can determine whether or not something's working or not, right? Like, the data will support it one way or the other. And then you pivot, right? You change directions. You say, okay, that's not working, or I need to change this about it, and move on. And you're using your data points in order to help motivate that change, right? That's how you end up scaling. Okay, so it's a constantly evolving market. You've got to be flexible. You've got to adapt. Awesome. The last and probably most controversial topic here, which I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I think that people blow this up way too much, is a con is you need a website. Right? And some people will argue, no, you don't. You need a funnel. You need this. You need that. And there are lots of different ways to achieve the same goal. People need to be aware of your product. They can't buy from you if they don't know that it exists. So you need to have that product. You need to have that. And it's easier than ever with social media, right? Like, you can do lives like what I'm doing here. You can do lots of different options that you couldn't do just 5 years ago. You can do so many ways to get your business out there. Google ads, Facebook ads, Twitter, Instagram. There's lots of opportunities to get your business out there, but you need to have some sort of online presence. Remember I said earlier that you go where your people are? So when you've found your ideal client, go all in, right? If your ideal client is 20-somethings, TikTok is where you got to be, right? If your ideal client is professionals, where you're trying to, whatever it may be, like resume writing service, using that for instance, then you go all in on LinkedIn, right? if there's so many options there, but you need an online presence. If I Google somebody and I can't find them because I can't find them because Google doesn't know they exist, or Bing, if you use Bing, fine, knock yourself out. That really hurts their credibility with me, right? I mean, like a basic website. We're not talking, it does not have to be a website with every bell and whistle on it. It does not have to be a perfect website. It needs to be a reasonable website with your basic information, who you are, what you're selling or what you're offering, and how to get a hold of you. Very basic information. It does not have to be a crazy website. There are lots of places that you can use for that. Wix, Squarespace, WordPress. There's lots of opportunities out there for you to use to get your online presence. Get your social media. All of my social media is Think Legal PC. Look, Facebook, LinkedIn. Everywhere you go, you can find me on social media underneath the same name, Think Legal PC, right? Building this brand, whatever it may be, is going to make it easier to build that know, like, and trust. People like doing business with their brands, with brands. People like Nike because of their brand, Reebok, Asics, New Balance, shoes, whatever it may be. They like brands. People get really tight with people's brands. People love Apple, okay? People love Microsoft sometimes. Just kidding. So building that brand is going to make you way more money than just John's Plumbing, so to speak. So Roto-Rooter, right? I mean, like that conjures a different image than John's Plumbing or John's Honest Mechanic. That's one of my favorites. Like, you have to say you're honest. That's not necessarily the most positive things in the world to say. So that's it. Those are the pros and cons of opening or having an online business in 2022. I hope you've gotten value out of this video. If you have, follow me on social media. As I said earlier, I'm everywhere Think Legal PC. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, fill in the blank. If you are on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe and like, and know we go live Monday through Friday at 11. And we'll see you next time. Have a great one.